Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the In the 11 podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Griffiths, and this is the show where we bring on those from the world of football to show you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. This week's guest, Brian Saramago, is coming to us live from Slovenia. Great story that he shares with us about his journey to the professional ranks through the Red Bull Academy, Loyola College, and now kind of talks to us about what it's been like life in Slovenia for the past year or so. So really interesting one. You don't hear many players, especially Americans, that are out there in Slovenia. So it's a fun one to learn more about the Slovenian football world and just the pro game in general. So a lot of good stuff from him, and I'm looking forward to share that one with you guys. As you know, the past couple episodes, I've asked you a quick favor here. If you've liked some of the episodes that you've heard, if you get any value from the content or you like the stories, if you could please leave a rating and review on the show. It helps the content reach those who may not have yet discovered it. So without further ado, here is myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, taking a quick break from a strenuous preseason so far over in Slovenia. Brian stepping into the 11. As we just mentioned there before we jumped on, I know it's been tough with double sessions, triple sessions the past couple of weeks, but I appreciate you taking some time to talk about your career a little bit, to talk about footy, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's nice hopping on podcasts and speaking about footy with someone with top knowledge, and just nice to have a conversation,
Yeah,
So I look forward
absolutely.
to it, and I appreciate you welcoming me.
Cool, man. So, I mean, I'm sure we're going to dive into it a little bit more in depth in here, but kind of what I guess brought you to Slovenia? Like how of all the places in the world for, an American player, did you find yourself playing in Slovenia?
Well, I would say number one, it was honestly thanks to COVID,
Ah,
because
okay.
um, so I graduated out of Loyola, Maryland in 2020, and I accelerated there so I could end school early and graduate and have a diploma in January so I could join into the MLS draft.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up not going undrafted, and so I got a couple of invites with a couple of USL Championship sides. I ultimately decided to go back to Red Bull 2, and while I finished preseason, they were going into the first week of the season, and that's when COVID hit,
Mm.
and ultimately, like I would say probably a month and a half, 2 months when they started going back to trainings, they were doing like one person at a time at the field type of trainings. And that's when the coach told me that they were gonna opt to not sign me because of financial reasons. Thanks to because of COVID, obviously, everyone
Yeah.
took a major hit financially. So they decided to go the route where they would stick to academy players. So I was kind of out of a team and just trying to look for something, and just kind of playing Sunday league and stuff like that as
Yeah.
something to stay fit, and waiting for an opportunity for something to come around. And that's when there was a coach in New York that actually took a job here as the assistant at the team I'm at. And he gave me a phone call, asked me if I had anything going on for me, and just a bunch of questions and stuff like that. And he asked me at the end if I was interested in coming over. And honestly, I said, why not? I didn't really have anything going for me.
Mm.
There were no teams reaching out. This was the only one. And it was in Europe. It's professional and playing in a second division. So honestly, I just said, why not? And just packed my bags and left a month later to start this journey that I'm on now.
That's amazing, man. Booked a one-way ticket, and the rest is history, as they say, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I wanted to ask, so it seems like your Red Bull roots are pretty deep then, obviously, because you came up through the Red Bull Academy. How did that process come about for you joining the academy, and then what was your experience like playing with that system?
Um, that's so I played at Gotchi, and I was best friends with Omir Fernandez, who is actually on the first team right now. And
Mm-hmm.
he he ultimately was the one that got invited to Red Bulls, and he went out on a limb. We were best friends since we were 8, and he basically told the coach that if he was going to go, that he would want me to come as well as a
Wow.
little package deal. And the coach told him I like that he wouldn't promise him anything, but he would let me trial, and I went to trial, had a couple, we had 3 sessions. We did 11v11 all those 3 sessions, and I scored in all three, at least one, and the coach decided to keep me around, and that's how my Red Bull journey started. So honestly, I'm grateful for my best friend Omir for going out on a limb and basically just believing in me and giving me the opportunity, and then the rest just fell into place. And yeah, I would
Yeah.
say the system. I grew up playing a possession-based team. My Gotchi team always played possession. I always tell people that my coach was Irish, Paul McGlynn, and he always believed in building up out of the back, even from a young age. I remember if the goalie didn't play out of the back, if he ever kicked it long on like a goal kick or something, he
Mm-hmm.
would pull him out right away. He didn't want us to be playing long balls and stuff like that. He always wanted us to build out of the back and work it through and work possession based. So going to Red Bulls, who kind of has a different formula from that, or philosophy, I would say, that's much more high press and long balls
Yeah.
and 7 seconds to score. It was a bit of a transition, but now I feel like I I fit well in philosophies that work with that gig press and high press type of thing. But yeah, it was different, but it was nice. I
Yeah.
appreciate my time there. It allowed me, honestly, it gave me the platform to join the youth national team, which was honestly the main goal going to Red Bulls, because um, there it seemed to be a lot of guys from at least my age group from that Red Bull team, like Matt Sunday, Tyler Adams, Omir. They were all getting called in from Red Bull, so it was kind of a something that I saw as, if I get on this team, if I do well, maybe I can get into the youth national teams, and thankfully it ended up happening.
With that as well, your goal kind of becoming wanting to go into the youth national team, did it also start to maybe shift away from wanting to go to college and wanting to go like professional quicker than maybe, perceived before? Because obviously, like you said, those players that you mentioned are all now playing professionally, and some of them went to college, some of
Hmm.
them maybe only went to college for a year or two or something like that. So was it kind of like, all right, I want to try and get into the national pool, but also go pro as soon as it's possible for me?
Um, I'd say yes and no. It's For me, my parents always kind of wanted me to go to college because I'm a son of immigrants. My parents
Mm-hmm.
came over when my sister was 3. So my sister was born in Portugal. Both my parents are from Portugal. I'm actually the only one in my family that was born in the U.S. So it was kind of a big deal trying to get a diploma and
Yeah.
graduate college. So I I've always wanted to go pro, and even when I was at school, I had times where after my freshman year, my sophomore year, that I wanted to give pro a go and maybe leave school, but my parents were always telling me that just a couple more years, get your diploma, and then you can go pro. Like we believe that you can make it to that level, but it's always good to have that diploma like in your back pocket, because football, you never know, you can get
Yeah.
injured one day, and that's it. Um, and honestly, I'm grateful that at the end of the day, I got got my diploma. It's something that I don't have to worry about. So it honestly makes me play freer, with no stress. I know I have this in the back pocket, but I obviously, it's always good to have a plan B, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting way to look at it. Is it like it kind of you never put too much pressure or stress on yourself to obviously you want to perform to the best of your ability when you're a football player, of
Yeah.
course, but it's not like maybe the same level of stakes for other players who it's like if this doesn't
Hmm.
work or I do get an injury or something, I don't have, a really way to pivot into something else. So
Yeah.
that's fascinating. What was it like that first time being able to wear the youth national team jersey and have the crest and stuff and play with some of those guys? I have to imagine that's like a surreal moment.
Yeah, it was. I could still remember walking into the locker room and seeing my jersey there. My first game was against Spain, so I walked in. We were wearing the
Wow.
white kit. My number was 18, and it was just I didn't start that game, but I remember being on the bench ready to go, and finally coach came over to me and told me to go warm up, and it's still waiting on that sideline and then running onto the field with that crest on your over your heart. It's really something special and something that I'll always remember, and it's something that I want to strive to do again. For
Mm.
the full men's national team.
So obviously you already mentioned, Tyler Adams before, and have you kind of come across whether playing with or kind of playing against really all of or most of the guys who are kind of in that current national team? Like it seems like you kind of have a star-studded lineup of guys that you've played with or kind of been in and around growing up.
Yeah, I would say, especially now, I feel like a lot of the class of '98, like the '98 born guys are starting to make their way into the national team. Like that trip in Spain, my roommate was Weston McKinney, so
Mm.
obviously he's making a big splash here in Europe and playing really well and showing what he's capable of. I played a couple of times at Red Bulls with Tyler. I've played with Matt Olsunday, who played at Man U and now is playing for Preston North End. And players like this, like I know Haji was on that trip as well, to Spain. So yeah, there's a bunch of guys, and it's nice seeing all these guys making their men's national team appearances. Because honestly, at the end of the day, it makes me believe in myself even more. I know that I've played with them once before. Like I know I believe in myself that I can make it to that point again, and it's nice to see guys that you were around making it into the national team and with their club teams and performing well. It's always nice to see.
What are the things that when you're in and around those guys on a day in day out basis, training and playing games, and like what are the things that you kind of pick up from them or learn from them, or just being with a being with a national team? Like those are the best players in the
Hmm.
country. Like so, what kind of things can you learn from something like that?
Uh, I would say just the professionalism that they brought every day.
Mm.
I know, like I was playing when I made when I was on the youth national team. I was probably 16 years old, and some of these guys were already playing at a in Europe or clubs um, that were more professional or making already like at reserves teams for their MLS sides and stuff like this, and they were around professionals often, and they just a different mannerism than a couple of guys on your academy team, that
Yeah.
haven't really seen that type of or been exposed to that type of professionalism, and you could tell that these guys really wanted it, and it was nice to be around. Like for an example, when I went to the national team, I never really was introduced to foam rolling and stuff like this, and these guys were
Mm.
doing it before every session, every match, and taking care of their bodies a lot more than what I was used to, and like the people around me were doing. So like that was just one thing that was kind of eye opening and stuff like that. Just seeing how they every day they prepared for match games at a higher level and stuff like that. They focus on the little things, I feel like, and that was good to see and learn from.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious too now, as you've kind of accumulated these experiences in your career early on, where you're like in one of the top level academies in the country, you're training with the national team at certain points. And then did you also have a couple of games that you played with the USL team before you actually went to college for Red Bulls?
Yeah, so I played for Red Bull 2. I think I made 7 or 8 appearances, and that was also very eye-opening and very, very helpful, especially making the transition to college, playing with these grown men and professionals that they were already professionals. So it was good to be around these people. Like I know I'll always remember when I was at one of the sessions, the coach blew the whistle, session was over, and usually at academy, you just go walk over to your stuff and put your bag on. You kind of just leave. And I remember coach pulled me aside and just told me just a little note that um, we see everything, and if you want to get to the level like this level and perform at your highest, like look at how all these guys are staying out after training and working on their weaknesses or doing something, working on their passing, working on their shooting. Like I advise you to probably do the same, especially if you want to get to this level. And it was kind of at that time I was 15 years old, so I wasn't really used to staying after the session and working on stuff, and that's where I kind of started realizing that if I want to get to the next level, I have to do these extra reps. It can't just be team training and stuff like that. So that was another experience that I brought over to college and stuff like that. And even now, I like to stay after. And if I feel like I need to work on my shooting or sharpen up, I like to stay after and work on these things. I feel like it's important. And that was a lesson that I thankfully learned at 15 years old with the reserve team at Red Bull.
Yeah, it's always you're more grateful the earlier that you learned that lesson for sure. Because for some players,
Yeah,
if it's too late, like it doesn't quite matter how much extra work you're putting in. Is there?
yeah,
I know you mentioned too there was kind of family related to wanting you to also get your education as well, and I'm sure it's extremely valuable and
hmm
important to you. But is there also kind of a certain level of like I'm already playing with professionals day in and day out, So like, should I go to college? Is there a little bit of that discussion that you're kind of having when you're
yeah,
deciding whether to go to college or not?
yeah, for sure. I know. At the time, my senior year, I was playing with Red Bull 2, and I was traveling with them and stuff, and it was getting closer to going to school. And I know there were a couple of people that took their gap, like you could take a gap year, and I definitely discussed with my parents about maybe I should take a gap year and try and stay here at Red Bull and see what happens. And if if they don't want to keep me, I can just go to school next year and see how it goes. But after a couple of lengthy discussions with my parents, we came to the conclusion that it was probably better just to get the education and just get it started and get it over with. Because I technically was a young kid going into uh, college. I was 17, so I only turned 18 in November, mid-November. So I basically played my whole freshman year as a 17-year-old, which is pretty young, and I finished uh, school at 21, just turning 21. So it's not too old leaving school, as I know there are a couple of guys that leave university at 23, 24 years old. So I think that it didn't affect me as much as what was expected or what I was thinking.
Yeah. Is that also a conversation that you kind of have with the club as well? Like, do they kind of guide players as well? Like, hey, I think it would be a good idea for you to stick around because you're going to progress here at the club, or maybe college is the best route for you, or does it really come down to the player and their family making the decision?
Um, I would say the club also plays a part. I know that they advise a couple of guys to go to school and stuff. At that point, when I started discussing that with my parents, they really hadn't said anything to me, but it was always in the back of my mind. It was something that if I thought I would want to take that gap year, that I would mention to them and speak to them. But I know in certain cases, there are some kids that wanted to stay, and they advise them maybe it's better for you to go to school and develop, or
Hmm.
other guys that they sign homegrown straight out of academy that they think that are going to be guys that they see in the first team in a couple of years. So I think at first it's kind of what the player wants and what he thinks that he wants, and then from there would be kind of a discussion with the club and see what they think.
Hmm. Yeah. So then, as we look into your college experience, I'm curious about this one because, like, we've gone over here. Red Bull Academy, you've done well. You're in the professional team as well. Youth national team experience, and I mean, from the outside looking in, I know Loyola is a good school. I know the Patriot League is a good conference, but I also kind of wonder, like, I'm sure there were bigger fish that were knocking on your door, kind of seeing if there was some interest there. So is that the case? Am I correct in assuming that, or maybe walk us through kind of the recruitment process and how you wound up choosing Loyola?
Yeah, you're definitely right. I had a lot of schools that were interested and stuff like that, but it after visiting um, a handful of schools, I just liked. I think it was important for me to connect with the coach and like my surroundings and even my parents when they went to visit with me all these schools. When we met Coach Nichols, he there was just something different about him. There was something that I believed in his vision, and he believed in me so much that I think that I just fell in love with Loyola and the ideas that he had for myself and the team and everything. And even after when we were leaving after my official visit, both my mom and dad both looked at me and were like, I think this is the school. Like the coach is really nice. He seems like he cares a lot about you, and he seems that I know almost all the coaches that I went to visit, they all talked only about football and stuff like that, and just really
Mm-hmm.
about the program. But Coach Nichols told my parents that he would help me develop both on the field and off the field, and help me become a man and just become the best man possible. Because you never know if football doesn't work. At the end of the day, you just need to be responsible, and he'll prepare me for the real world and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I believed in him and everything. And looking back, I tell everyone that I don't regret going to Loyola at all. I love my time there. It was so nice. And honestly, if I had to repeat it all over again, I would pick Loyola again for sure.
Mm.
I love my time there. I love Coach Nichols. I loved Coach Marciano, Coach Darvel. They're all top coaches, and I think it really helped me develop as a player as well. And I just enjoyed my time there. I think it was great. But yeah, I had bigger schools to go to, but it just didn't seem right. I when I went to Loyola, it just seemed like it was the right place to be. It was just I don't know. Someone always says, "Oh, yeah, you should visit the school first and see if it's right for you." Like that really is true because I visited a bunch of schools, and out of all of them, Loyola was the one place that I felt at home right away. Once I stepped on campus, I walked around, the people there, everything was so nice. Everyone was so nice that it was great.
Yeah. So it sounds like if you were ever, having a conversation with a younger player that was kind of going through the recruiting process, that you would
Mm,
say it's more about the feel that you get with the program. Like if they care about you, and I'm sure every player has different things that they value,
yeah.
but it's like, I guess the big thing that was the deciding factor for you was that it felt more like home than really anything else.
Yeah, I felt just felt comfortable. Like
Mm.
I went to other schools and it felt like I wasn't too sure if I would feel at home there. And once I stepped on Loyola, it just felt right. I felt like I trusted Coach Nichols with everything, and that he would help me out. And yeah, I think it just once you get on campus, if you feel like you'll feel or if you feel comfortable right off the bat, I think that's something that's really important.
Yeah. So when you went into preseason and then kind of kicked off your college soccer career, what was the differences that you kind of noticed? Was there like a level jump, or was it maybe a little bit down from the USL level? Like kind of maybe compare and contrast the soccer side of things for people out there listening.
I think I think it was a bit of a level down from the USL in terms of technical, but
Okay.
I do think it was a bit more physical. Uh, I know that the it was just a more physical game of football than what the USL was like. But so in terms of technical, it was a little bit easier, but in terms of physicality, it was a bit harder to adjust. So it was kind of, you know, there's it's just yeah, just the technical side was easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've heard that from a lot of players that the college game is there's so much of an emphasis on like fitness and running and
Hmm.
physicality, right? You do a lot of strength and conditioning work. Um, was that
Yeah.
kind of your I guess schedule in terms of when you were in college? Was it like a lot of training, but then also work in the gym as well, like strength and conditioning stuff? Like, what was your sort of schedule like in that regard?
We honestly, um, my freshman year, our strength and conditioning coach was more of like an Olympic lifting program, and then after the fall season, we were blessed enough to get a strength and conditioning coach that used to work at Chicago Fire, so he knew more about football strength and conditioning. His
Mhm.
name was Ruben, and he's been one of the best trainers I've ever had. And he knew all his stuff, and it was a lot better. So I would say my freshman year, first half in the fall, it was more of like Olympic lifting and stuff like that. It was like 3 times a week and stuff, and it was definitely a lot harder for me, especially coming from. I honestly, the first time I stepped into a weight room and started lifting was preseason of college. I was 17, and it was my
Yeah.
first time really picking up heavy weight and stuff. So like it was kind of a shock to me and to my body. Like I felt a lot more sore after everything and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that was another big difference between academy ball and
Yeah.
college was the lifting aspect. But I would say that after when Ruben came, it was a lot more like plyometrics and stuff like this, like stuff that actually helped us on the field, and it wasn't so much heavy lifting, like it wasn't so much like uh, max bench and stuff like
Mhm.
this. It was more working on your hamstrings, like Nordics and stuff like that.
If you could go back to your academy days, like would you, knowing what you know now, would you have kind of input more gym stuff and more weight training into your program, or do you still think like the biggest recommendation is just get the most amount of time on the ball when you're at that age growing up?
For me, I would say most important is getting the technical stuff down, like your touch, your dribble, your passing, your shooting. But if I was to go back, I would add like plyometrics and isometric stuff, like body weight stuff,
Hmm.
where I would improve my acceleration and my jumping and stuff. I think that I would apply some of those things, but not so much like the heavy lifting. I feel like towards when I started doing that in college, I think it was like around the right time. I think as you're developing in the academy and stuff like that, you should kind of focus more on the technical side and work on those things that help you get that first step quicker and you're jumping quicker and stuff like that, or jumping higher. And I think that's more important than actual heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So now you're in college, right? And you're kind of getting acclimated to everything, starting lifting programs, starting training at a high level. And I know you mentioned earlier there were some opportunities maybe in between seasons to again kind of look at the professional route, and maybe opportunities presented themselves to you. Um, did that come about from your college career? Did that come about from, I know in the summer you also spent time, went back to Red Bull a little bit and were playing PDL, or I'm not sure at the time if it was USL 2 or what it was. Um,
Yeah.
did some of those opportunities kind of present themselves via those connections, or just through college, and maybe walk us through the decision making process to come back each year?
So for me, coming back each year to Red Bull under 23 was simple because I'd be in that environment, and since I already played with the USL 2, they would let me train with them throughout the
Mm,
summer. So it was more of a like I know that I can get this training in and at a high quality, and I could keep my fitness and stuff like that. So I would basically just train with the USL team, and then I'd play games with the PDL team, and so that was kind of the idea behind going back to Red Bull. And obviously, I was still in school, and I obviously still wanted to get that homegrown contract. So I thought it would
yeah,
be obviously the best option for me was to go back and showcase my abilities, and so they could see me and how I developed in every year at school to hopefully get that homegrown contract. So that was basically the thought process behind going back to Red Bull 23 every summer.
yeah. As you went through your college career, and obviously you had success, on the individual level in terms of accolades, do you ever feel like you really got that kind of answer from Red Bull as to maybe why they didn't, go forward with the homegrown or draft you?
I think it was just at the time they were going to bring up Brian White, and they had a couple of foreigners on the team, and I think that they just thought that myself and Brian White were probably too similar of forwards, and they kind of didn't want the same type of forward, two of the same type of forward on the team and stuff like that. Um, but never really got like an explanation. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's football is a business if you really look at it. So I didn't really expect an explanation as to why or why not. But
Mm,
yeah, it was definitely kind of a bit of a shock because I felt like I always performed at every level at Red Bull, whether it be academy. I was always the leading scorer. I felt like um, when I went back at PDL, like I was also always leading the team in goals and stuff like that. And I was doing the same during my college season. And but at the end of the day, they opted to go a different way, and that's just how football goes, and it opened doors to other opportunities.
yeah. So is it a bit of a hard pill to swallow? Because obviously, I'm sure you have that history, like we mentioned before, those roots with Red Bull, or is it just sort of like, all right, you know what, football is a business, it is what it is. Like now, let me kind of figure out how to go find a new opportunity for myself.
Uh, at first, it was definitely a hard pill to swallow. You've been around the that facility and the team for so long, and you feel like, or at least I felt like I said, I performed at every level that I thought that if they gave me the opportunity to even just come to preseason and give me a trial and see what would happen. I felt like
Mhm.
I would be able to perform and earn my spot on the team and showcase that I am good enough to be part of the team. But after a couple of days, it was okay. Let me get back to work and see what's next, and um, reach out to other clubs, see what's happening, and if someone will just give me that one chance and let me come to preseason with them. That was basically the focus. So I would say, yeah, at first it's obviously a hard pill to swallow since you've been there for so long, and I love putting on the Red Bull kit. Even now, I'm a big Red Bull supporter. I
Yeah.
watch their games every day or every week, and obviously watching Omir play is always nice. I always want him to score and assist and do his best. So it's nice that he's finally getting to start this year, and it's nice to watch them. So yeah, I it was a hard pill to swallow, but now it's in the past. It was a couple of days later, back to work, and I think that's the mentality that you need to have, especially in football. If you want to make it, you can't really dwell on the past, and because football moves so fast, opportunities open up so quickly that if you're stuck dwelling in the past, you might miss the next opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So I know we mentioned earlier that there was kind of that happened with Red Bull, where you're also with the USL team. COVID happens, everything kind of changes, and you were playing Sunday League. You said just trying to find a team. Like, what are you doing in that process? Obviously, playing Sunday League to stay fit, training on your own. I'm sure. What's the process
hmm
like for you of actually finding a new club? What are you doing? Who are you kind of reaching out to?
So I had I had kind of an agent talking to me and telling me that he would try and reach out, and so I kind of stuck with him, and he got me a bunch of different trials. So I was kind of bouncing around with teams in the USL. Um, I had a couple of teams in League One and a couple of teams in the Championship. And at the time, I decided to go back. I went with Phoenix Rising for a week with them, and after a week, they told me that they were gonna keep another forward that they were bringing in from Denmark, and so I just got on my flight, came back,
Hmm.
got back on the phone with the agent, and asked him if he could find me another trial, and then I would say probably like a week or so later, he called about my assistant, who's my head coach now, that spoke with him and told him if I was interested and that he wanted to reach out to me. And I told him, sure, give him my number and I'll be glad to talk. And that's kind of where that all started.
Okay, so that led right into Slovenia after the Phoenix Rising trial.
Yeah, I would say probably a week or two after it yeah, it came to fruition that I started talking and the ball started rolling and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
What's it like to go on trial with a professional club? Like, is it nerve wracking? Is it just I'm curious, especially I think players out there would be curious to know, like, what's that like to just show up at a club where they have a team already, right? And you're just kind of going in there trying
Yep.
to essentially take somebody's job.
Yep.
Like, what is that kind of like?
Yep. Um, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. I think that um, it's always a little bit uh, yeah, you get a little bit nervous going there. You get off the plane, you're getting there, you finally get to training. You don't really know anybody. Everyone's kind of looking at you like who's the new guy and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I think at the end of the day, you just can't really focus. You just have to go there with the mentality that uh, this is an opportunity. I need to perform at my best, and you just have to focus on doing everything, the little things right, and just working your hardest and showcasing your ability, which at the end of the day is what a trial essentially is. You need to to prove to the coaches and the management and the directors and stuff that you're worth keeping around, and I think that's the biggest thing. I would say that trials are always difficult because, like you said, you're basically trying to take someone's job, and
Mm,
when someone comes in on trial, they're obviously a couple of players on every team aren't really going to like it because you're either trying to take their job, or others aren't going to really like it because you're trying to take their friend's job at the end
mm,
of the day. So there is that difficulty, but I honestly never had really a bad experience on trial. At Phoenix, everyone welcomed all the trialists and stuff. They were nice. They obviously um, are a top team and all top professionals, and they know that these things, trialists obviously always come and go, and if you want to stay on the team, you need to perform yourself. And I feel like
yeah.
all these experienced guys know that at the end of the day, and they were very friendly to myself and the few other trialists that were there at the time.
Mm.
But yeah, it is always a little bit nerve-wracking going there, but you just need to believe in yourself and perform and try and get that contract at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to imagine too, once you come over to Slovenia, it's like a little bit more difficult because now you're doing all of that same things in another country, and a country where you don't speak the
Yeah.
language and all that kind of stuff. Like, what was that first maybe culture shock like for you coming in on trial, or the first couple weeks, month when you're in Slovenia?
I honestly I didn't really have to trial, so
Okay,
I
that's
kind of
good.
came over with a contract already, thank which was kind of the big selling point for me. Um, because I had been on so many trials that I was kind of like, oh, another trial,
Yeah,
and
done
then
with trialing.
they told me that okay, like we really like you and stuff, and we believe in you, so like we're willing to offer you a contract. And I was like, oh, perfect. I don't have to go to another trial and worry about all these things. But I would say the first couple of weeks, it was a culture shock. It's a difficult language to understand and even practice. Like even now, I don't know much. I just know simple football terms on the pitch and
Mhm.
stuff, and I try, but it's really difficult
Yeah.
to learn and stuff. And I know myself, I'm from New York, from Long Island, but it's still there's a lot of buildings and stuff like that. And where I'm at right now, when I first got here, it was like just mountains around and so many trees and stuff. It was definitely like a much more like nature based city,
Hmm.
that it was sometimes in training, after training, I would just kind of look around and be like, I'm just, I'm in the middle of the mountains. Like I'm not used to seeing as many mountains around coming from New York.
Yeah.
And after like the third day, my coach came up to me and he's like, "Well, you're observing the background, so you're not really used to this stuff." And I was like, nah, like it's completely different than what I'm used to. I'm used to everything being walking distance and seeing so many people on the road and stuff. And here, if I go walk to the supermarket, in a 15-minute walk, I'd probably see like three people,
Yeah.
which in New York, you would see three people right when you walk out of your door.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something different and stuff like that. But it is enjoyable. It's a lot more relaxed and calm and it is different, but yeah, it was definitely a little shock at first for
Yeah.
myself.
Was there a difference in the football side of it as well? Like I know for one thing, like just I think European football was so cool for me to experience just to see like the culture around it and see how many people love the game. Was that kind of the same experience
Yeah.
that you had in Slovenia, or like was there even things that you learned that were just kind of different about the game than they were in the United States?
Um, honestly, it wasn't much different from what I was used to at Loyola.
Okay.
Like I said, our assistant coach was one of the best coaches I've ever had. He's actually the head coach at Drexel now, Michael Marciano, and the things that he taught us in at Loyola and our style of play at Loyola kind of transitioned here. Like at Loyola, we were playing a 3-5-2 and with possession based, and we've really focused on building out of the back and all these things. And when I got here, I think we played the same formation, 3-5-2 as well. Our coach also wanted us to build out of the back, and kind of the rotations were similar. So it wasn't that hard to get accustomed to. I feel like a lot of these things were similar, and even dating all the way back to my Gotchi days, like I told you earlier,
Hmm.
my coach always told us to build out of the back and be possession based and play kind of a tiki taka style of play. And so I've always kind of been around these teams that focus on this kind of European style
Mm.
uh, football, which I think helped a lot with the transition.
So overall, how did that first season go for you personally, and obviously your first season with the team? How did the team perform?
Uh, so the team wanted to obviously go into the first league last year, and we finished fifth. Um, but it is very difficult to get promoted here. You need to win the league, and whoever wins the league gets promoted automatically.
Okay.
And then if you finish second, you have to play a playoff versus the team that was second to last in the first division.
Okay.
So you're essentially fighting everyone. All 16 teams are kind of fighting for that, obviously that first place spot to for guaranteed play, and then so on. So the goal was obviously to get promoted last year. We finished fifth. We finished like short of our goal, but it wasn't too bad. We had good performances. We had some good games, but we had a couple of games that we let slip that were either mistakes from us or we just didn't show up. And at the end of the day, if you want to win a league, you need to always show up and perform every game and always put your best foot forward. You can't really make these mistakes that we were making, especially in
Mhm.
this league when so many teams, you kind of really need that first place spot to get promoted. So we fell a little bit short, but it was still a good season. It's something to build on. We kept a lot of the core group from last year into this year, and we added a couple of guys that really helped the team, and I think we have a good chance of fighting for that first and second spot this year again. So it'll be interesting. But in terms of personally, when I first got here, they told me that to not really put too much pressure on me about scoring so much, that they expected me to have a little transition period,
Yeah.
and that if I didn't score as much as I expected, that it would be okay. Like they weren't really gonna they weren't really worried about me scoring like 20 goals, but at
Mm.
the end of the year, I had a really good year and I ended up scoring 17, and
Wow.
which was good enough to finish second behind the forward that was playing on the second place team. He had 21. But yeah, for personally, it was a good season for myself. I obviously wanted to get that golden boot. Um,
Yeah.
it was it was always yeah, it was always driving me to do my best in each game. But yeah, personally, I think I had an excellent season, especially being my first season in Europe and in the second division in a country that I wasn't really too familiar or too comfortable at the start.
Hmm.
Um, I think I did well to transition and just at the end of the day perform at my highest level just do what I do best, which is score goals and enjoy playing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And especially I have to imagine after a season like that, was there maybe some buzz and some interest around you, or were you on a 2-year contract with this current team, or maybe walk us through your off season and then what led you to coming back to the club?
So I signed a 2-year contract, but there
Okay.
were there was some interest from other clubs. I know sometimes my club didn't really say anything, but I would get like a notification of like a news article here mentioning me and a couple of first division sides that were apparently um, looking into me and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it was just more the club kind of wanted to keep me around for this season because obviously their goal is to get promoted. And
Hmm.
the coach that brought me over went from assistant to head coach now. So um, I I have a good connection with him, and I like the style of play that he wants to implement. It's pretty similar to the way we played at Red Bulls, and that's one of my favorite styles. I love the gegen press. I love pressing. I love that type of football. So I think that at the end of the day, I thought that it'd be good to stay and try and see what we can do with this team and see if we can take this club to the first division and achieve that goal and hopefully see how it goes. I know this year we play in the cup for the first time. Last year, only two teams in the second division played because of COVID was still a thing kind of. So
Mm,
not all clubs were part of it, and this year everyone is a part of it again. It's back to normal, so it's definitely going to be interesting and nice, and I look forward to seeing how far we can go in the cup as well, which is going to be a new experience for me.
yeah. Yeah, cup football always is another cool thing about Europe. So I think it would be fair to say
Yeah.
kind of your goal is to obviously do well, as you just mentioned, the cup and hopefully promote the team
Hmm.
and that golden boot as well. What what are
Yeah.
some of the other goals, still so early on in your career that you have as you look forward to your professional career?
I would say the biggest one that I have is if I don't have the chance to make that U.S. men's national team roster in 2022, I definitely want to be on that roster in 2026, playing at home
Mhm.
and in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico. I would love to be on that roster. So I think that's definitely my number one goal. Just see where it goes and perform to my best and try and make it onto that roster and play in a World Cup, hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, but I would say another goal I would really enjoy playing in Portugal. Like I said, my parents are from there. My sister was born there. I have almost all my extended family are still living in Portugal. So it'd be nice to go back and play professionally there and have all my family around
Yeah.
and just watching me and supporting me. It would be something cool. Um, and yeah, I would love to be in that first division someday and see what I can do there.
Has that been something that you've already looked at and explored a little bit, Portugal, or have you kind of been on trial out there or anything like that so far?
Um, yeah, so after my freshman year, I actually went on trial with Braga. So I went on trial with their under 19s
Hmm.
because, like I said, I was when I went into school, I was 17 and I turned 18. So I was kind of at a weird age where they weren't sure if I was part of the under 19 or if I wasn't able to play. So they invited me on a trial and they were like, "Let's see you first and then we'll go from there." And they liked me. The coach ended up liking me and they tried when it was time to go see I could play, like actually play with the under 19s. Um, they said that the cutoff was I think October 1st or something like that. I missed it by like a month or two, and they told me that if I was to stay out, it would have had to be with Braga B, and they said that they thought I was good to play for the under 19, but for Braga B, it was a different story. They had a lot of obviously like Brazilian guys and guys that were kind of reserve guys for the first team and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of a completely different level. So um, that happened, and then during COVID, I tried going out there and playing and stuff. I was kind of just playing with the local team, and then I decided to come back to the U.S. for that Phoenix Rising trial because I thought it was obviously a better opportunity than playing in the district like level. It was basically just amateur football.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was better for me to go back to Phoenix. So in terms of experiences, that was kind of my only experiences in Portugal. But recently, yeah, I've obviously would like to see if after this contract is up and see if I could go back and either to League Three or the second division in Portugal and work my way up. Or honestly, you never know. It's just more just waiting and seeing but at the end of the day, what's more important is just performing here and taking it one game at a time because you can't really overlook uh,
Yeah.
these games because at the end of the day, if I don't perform well, it doesn't really matter where I want to go if I don't
Yeah.
perform. So it's I kind of leave that stuff for the people that are advising me and stuff like that, and they could deal with those outside factors. I kind of just want to stay focused on my football and training every day and games that are coming up and just scoring as many goals as possible or assisting as much as possible. Whatever helps the team win. That's my main objective at the end of the day.
Yeah, 100%. It's like kind of just controlling what you can control, and that stuff as you've just laid out here based on your career, a lot of that stuff sometimes is not within your control, where you play
Yep.
or for what coach or what league or anything like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, man, it's been good stuff. I really appreciate you jumping on and tell the story. I don't want to take too much of your time because I know preseason is busy and you got to try and recover to be able to go back and do it again. But thank you so
Yeah.
much, and I'm sure the people really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was glad to get the invite onto the podcast.
That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much to Brian for taking some time out of a busy preseason to jump on and record with us, tell us about his story. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to all of you out there who are listening. Greatly appreciate the support of the podcast as it continues to grow. If you want some more digestible, bite-sized content, clips from this episode, clips from previous episodes with Arun, Caesar, JC Mack, the whole lot, go ahead and follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Both of those are going to be at In the 11 Pod. We've got clips, we've got some sizzle highlight reels from some of these guys, and just some really good content. So I'd encourage you, and would love for you to go and follow us over on those platforms. And I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.